My name is Douglas Burleson. My rank was Sonar Technician 2, E5. After we got back there, I came back and I went to an advanced sonar school in San Diego. Spent about a week and a half there. Sonar school was, when we went through this, we had to go through your basic electronics. And that was pretty easy because I was really interested in electronics in school, and I'd been in television and different classes on that. And it was a very, you were down to the point of where you really had to make sure you studied, because the results, if you ever drop out or fail out of one of those classes, you could just get some barge, or else you'd be over on a river boat in Vietnam or something like this. So that was a very good incentive to study hard. But I was very impressed, at just the technology, which I'd never been exposed to, and the part of trying to, learning the different sounds and signatures of ships and how to track them and different kinds of things like this, how to analyze some of which we were picking up and track and do bearing tracks and all that with it. And I enjoyed the school because I enjoyed electronics. This was the time that Cuba had opened up and everybody was on alert. I came aboard to the Spinax at that time there. At that time I was an E3. I think the first time I was out, it was out at Ballast Point in San Diego. I'd gone aboard her and she'd come out and had a fresh black paint, and it was a different kind of sail on her that was on in this rod coil I was on. And I looked at it, it was a nice looking boat, and I went aboard, met with the topside watch, and showed him my orders, and he directed me down below, and went on there, so went down into the after battery, went back through there, and went forward through the after battery up into the officer's country, and the forward battery, and signed in with the XO. And then I was introduced to a Chief Searle, who was the chief sonarman, and we sat down and we talked and all this, told him what I'd done, and he kind of told him what was going on there. And then I was assigned my quarters on it, which was I was berthed back in the after battery, back in a place called Hogan's Alley. I kind of got away my gear there, and then I basically started on my tour through the boat and just meeting people up there, and then we started off in the forward torpedo room. And at the time I think there was about 3 torpedomen up there, and they were kind of pointing out some of the stuff and kind of getting the welcome aboard. Going back out through there, I went into the forward battery, which is the officer's country. I'd met the yeoman, talking to the yeoman, because he was still doing some stuff with my records. And I think I met a couple of the officers then. Jack Hunter was one of the officers. And went back into control. At the time there was only about 1 crew on, it was the weekend, I reported, so there wasn't all the men on there at the time. So there was a few people mingling around the control room, and that's the center part of the boat. And talking to a few of them, I went up into the conning tower, which is right above there. And I don't think anybody was up at the time, but I was just kind of looking at the equipment. Walk back down, and you go back aft into the after battery. That's there in the mess hall. I think I got a cup of coffee. And right below there was the sonar room, which you go, it's right there in the middle of basically the mess deck. And you open up the hatch and drop down through there, and that's sonar right in there. And I went down there to look at the equipment and see what we had and see how that was. And spent about probably an hour down there just playing with it and looking at it. Got back up, went back up in the mess deck and started back aft again. Then you would go into the berthing compartment, and there you have 2 rows of the bunks, and the bunks are all just, that's about your width you have to lay in between the top of your bunk and the next one, so you don't do any sleeping on your side. And I got signed back into a place called Hogan's Alley, which is you go down the main, turn right in this little passage, and it's back, so it's a lot darker. And finished putting the rest of my gear around up. Then you go back aft to then it comes into the after head, And then you step through that compartment and you're going into the forward engine room. And then there you have two big Morris Fairbanks engines. And then you have the freshwater still. And you go back into that, you go back into the after engine room. You went back in, they had the two other Fairbanks were back in that room. You go out of the after engine room, you go into a maneuvering room. That is the big cubicle that controls all of the power coming off of the batteries or off of the generators for the engines, going to the electric motors that drive the screws, which is all the controls. It moves, changes the current around, and runs the boat basically. You go back in that, and there, on other boats, it would be an after torpedo room, but the Spinax did not have the after torpedoes because originally when it was built as a radar picket boat. And so basically back what you had there is just the quarters, and then you had the other bunks like that for the sleeping back there. And then from that, then you could go back up the after torpedo room hatch, and that's a pretty well tour through the boat. And that was compared to what the Ronquil to me was just, it was there and it was duty, but it wasn't close. The Spinax crew was just like family, from officers, enlisted and all. And we spent a lot of time, you know, then we were just working right in and out of San Diego. About 6 months later, we went into the yards in San Francisco.